It was dark. The light was off. I was expecting the washing machine to grab me with its hoses and other mysterious parts at any time and drag me inside of it, if some horrific monster didn't come charging out of the pitch-black workroom first. I was scared stiff to enter the laundry room with the light off, so I took a deep breath. I put one foot in front of the other, as if in a running stance before the start of the marathon. I then forced my mind to power through, and I charged into the blackness of the room with all the speed my small legs could carry me with. I ran toward the pull chain for the light in the straightest beeline known to man, and when I got there, I yanked it down in an instant. Delicious light appeared and filled up the laundry room. I was safe from the washing machine now. This is a brief recounting of a childhood experience of mine with one of the most common, universal, and mysterious fears of all of humanity, the fear of the dark. Most, if not all, humans are afraid of the dark to some degree and to some intensity. I can't exactly say how many. It's impossible to obtain that statistic, but most estimates say that anywhere from 25 to 65% of humans are afraid of the dark currently. This number becomes a lot more significant when you take into account the people that used to have this fear but currently don't. In my personal opinion, I would be willing to guess that up to 90 to 95% of the population has been affected by this phobia at some point in their lives. These staggering numbers brought up a question to me. How could this particular type of fear be so overwhelmingly spread across all of humanity? What's the cause of this fear? What do we as humans all have that brings out this fear in us? I'll tell you one thing, I wasn't asking myself these things when I was afraid to enter the laundry room when the lights were off. When I used to stand outside of it, trying to collect enough courage to run to the light switch before the demons caught me, I didn't wonder why I was afraid. I simply knew I was, and very much so. As a matter of fact, I was afraid of more than just the dark laundry room. I was afraid of the basement with the lights turned off, going outside of the house at night, and even sleeping alone in my room at night. However, now that I've grown out of those fears for the most part, I'm not sure they ever leave anyone entirely, I now begin to question why I was so afraid. Firstly, fear of the dark to me seems irrational, or it appears to be. We know there are no such things as monsters or ghosts that will do something to us. I've never actually really even thought about what they would do to us, but we fear these creatures hiding in the dark every bit as much as if they were real. This brings me to my next point, which is that we are not so much afraid of the dark itself, but rather what could be concealed, lurking inside the dark. Crescendex is a YouTube content creator who has made observational videos on this topic. He reiterates that humans' fear of the dark is a smaller, individual part of our broader fear of the unknown. I think that this is a really good observation. Fear of the dark, in reality, is just a fear of some danger that we're uncertain of that is concealed by the darkness. Since we cannot detect the danger in advance, due to our natural inability to see in the dark, we have this gnawing foreboding hanging over us. This fear does indeed seem to involve a fear of the unknown, but I would not go so far as to say that it is one and the same with it. Several theories have been put forth in an attempt to explain the true root of our fear of the dark. We want to discover what triggers it, what makes it so real and present in our lives. In Josh Rolla's webpage, there is an evolutionary reason why we're afraid of the dark. He states that it is possible that this fear is evolutionary based. He goes on to suggest that this evolutionary fear could be a result of our ancient ancestors' fear of natural predators who hunted mainly at night. Because of this, it's reasonable to theorize that they came to associate darkness with danger and uncertainty. Another possible cause is an idea that I have been pondering on for a long time. It's possible that this fear results from, at least in part, a spiritual factor within us. All humans have a soul, a spiritual side to their essence as well as a physical. Many sources, such as the webpage Light vs. Darkness from Bible Hub, repeats the universally recognized fact that throughout all of history, most, if not all cultures have associated goodness with light and evil with darkness. This type of universal imagery is universally present on as large a scale across humanity's history as the scale of our fear of the dark. This similarity in prevalence across humanity It was close enough to cause me to wonder if there really is some sort of a correlation or relating factor between them. Now, in my opinion, both of these explanations have a very high relevance in relation to the topic. It's possible that our fear of the dark is evolutionary learned as an instinct from our ancient ancestors while they were still low on the food chain. However, if this is true, what could this mean for humanity in general? What it could mean about who we are, or for what greater purpose this fear was instilled in us? Well, in my opinion, it doesn't amount to much. If this fear is simply a result of perfectly natural evolutionary processes that just developed in our brains, as our position on the food chain improved, then its potential for having some greater hidden purpose for us is fairly little. However, consider the possibility that this fear has a spiritual factor involved. The spirituality of humans is where all of the interesting, insightful, and deep things happen. Through our spirituality, we're able to think, be conscious, dream, believe, imagine. This spirituality also extends to religion. Religion involves faith, beliefs, standards, morals, etc. None of these things are physical. They're some of the spiritual, immaterial functions that we're gifted to perform as humans. If our fear of the dark has such a deeper spiritual root and is in some way related to the imagery of light and darkness that all of humanity commonly uses, its possibilities for presenting a greater meaning and purpose in our lives is vast. I will admit here that I am no expert in the psychological areas of this discussion. However, based on my own informed insight and the statistics presented, I conjecture that this special fear we have does indeed have some form or degree of a spiritual factor attached to it. One example of what it could mean for us is the possibility that this light and dark imagery could be a fine artist's touch in the wonderful design and creation of human beings. Maybe this fear of the dark is a visual representation that we can sense of how human beings naturally desire righteousness in this life. If humans are constituted good by nature, then this means that they will be attracted to light and fear and repel darkness, since darkness is a visual representation we all use for evil. We may not be consciously afraid of or actively combating anything evil itself when we experience fear of the dark, but this could signify a more profound meaning. It may be that it's a sort of subconscious character or natural spiritual inclination imprinted on our minds by a higher spiritual being who created us. Whatever the root cause, I consider speculation and thinking about and insight into this topic to be extremely interesting and meaningful. I suppose we'll never actually know what really is the cause of this fear. In fact, I've even considered the possibility that it is mutually exclusive, either purely evolutionary or purely spiritual. However, it could also quite possibly be a combination of the two. But to what degree each factor contributes is a matter of further speculation. Because of all this, I will give our fear of the dark 3 stars. 5 stars for the interesting insight it provides, but -2 stars for the actual uncomfortableness we experience when we have it.